Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back. I'm Wayne Tuttle. I'm your host for today. Before we get any further, please hit subscribe, hit the notification bells, and leave a comment if you like. And maybe wander on over to our About description page and on the YouTube channel here, and you'll see shirts available for Legend of the Superstition Mountains and the Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, available in both black and gray short and long sleeves. So we make nothing on that, just kind of a way of us kind of, if you're interested, picking up a shirt and kind of go style it and profile it. Now, we made it to episode 52 consecutive weeks without a pause. And today, I want to kind of start a little bit of a prologue into the story, a little introduction into it. A number of years ago, I'm down at the Historical Society, and I'm going through files, all the files, and it has to be more than a million different files and papers and things to go through, books and photographs that are cataloged. And I came across a folder, and in it I found an envelope, and I pulled it out. And it was an unmarked envelope, and I opened it up. Found a bunch of old slides and some pictures in. They were of a gentleman by the name of John Kochera. So I was looking through it and going, oh, okay, here's the negatives and the pictures they'd used in a few books. It's a well-known story amongst the Dutch hunters. I don't think it's in that many books, though. So I was going through it thinking, oh, that's cool, even the slides. Good to know. Put them back in, put it back in that file, whatever the file was. Put it back in the file cabinet, shut the door, don't think anything. And then a few months later, we were sitting around, and I believe it was myself, Randy Wright, and Greg Davis, the Director of Acquisitions and Research for the Historical Society. And the topic got into something, and I mentioned the fact that, I found the slides for the John Kochera stuff, just in case you want to know. And Greg said, where? And I had no clue, because I'd been through so much stuff through there. I had no idea. And Greg was very, very agitated by that. He'd been looking for it, I guess, for years and didn't know where it was. And it wasn't any place related. I told him I can't even think of over the last few months what I've been through. I've kind of tried to go back through and see if I could sort out what it was, but it was in a folder, a file. Someone had probably pulled it out, went through the stuff, and misfiled it. So if you're ever going through and you see this little white envelope, if you do find the John Kochera stuff, please do us all a favor. Write Kochera on it, pull it out, put it on Greg's desk. That being said, brings us to the John Kochera story. It's a well-known story about amongst Dutch hunters. Quite a few of us have held the ore that John found. But it's puzzling and odd, because I went through the library and I was looking to kind of bring myself back up to speed on some of the particulars or a few dates, and I realized, wow, it's not in as many books as I'd thought, even though everybody knows the story, I thought. So I wanted to kind of cover it today. John was born, I think, around 1928 and passed away in 2001, so he was kind of contemporary with a lot of things. But Kochera's story is, and I'll leave out some of the particulars, the disputed facts. There's some disputed stuff that in his stories and letters that could change from letter to letter or was not included always. But he was going, I believe, to vocational school or something in Wisconsin at the time. His family had lived in Illinois, and he met an individual there who I believe was around 37 at the time. His name was Silas Haywood. And him and Haywood got along pretty well and would sit around and drink and stuff. And they became kind of friends. Haywood was from the Verde Valley area of Arizona, was Apache, and they had a conversation or something, and somewhere along the line, John Kochera mentioned something about going to Mexico or looking for gold in Mexico, old mines, lost mines or something. And Silas Haywood tells him a story. Now, I believe the story took place in the 30s, 1937 or so, and or 1942. So I've got something here to correct myself. So 1942, him and a group of Apaches go back into the Superstition Mountains. The directions where they were at the Salt River, they followed the barge in, went by Squaw Box, and went back down in, and there was this hill, a little mountain, small mountain, little hill. And at the base there was a tunnel, and it was partially covered by a tree. And they went up on top of this mountain, or this small hill, and they opened up a pit. And in the pit, they pulled $50,000 worth of gold out. And I believe there's various different descriptions that, they would go out there. And this was something that would happen when someone was in need. There was several people that needed funds or something. And they would go in and kind of like a bank, they would go get gold from this place and then cover it back up, and then they left. So he's saying this happened about 42 or so, and gave the descriptions back to it. He told John Kochera he thought, since he was part Indian, I think Kochera claimed or made some claims or said something about, Haywood had said something that he thought he was part Apache, that they would, this would be okay for him to partake this, because if he told someone non-indigenous, something bad would happen to him. So this happens in the spring of 1960 or so. And in July of 1960, Haywood was in a vehicle with another gentleman, and I believe it was a semi-truck hit them head on and killed them both. They both died. So there's always, that was a part of the story, and I don't know if a lot of people have been able to research Silas Haywood and stuff, but several people had heard the story, or there was some other connections to Haywood. I know it's been a difficult story sometimes to track down. Well, shortly after this, John Kochera and his brother Joe decided to come to Arizona. And they decided to take the map that Haywood had kind of drawn out, and the directions and stuff, and look for this place. So they came, they started following the directions, found themselves, which most people will find when they look at the maps. You can't exactly follow the path that supposedly the Apaches went, because it's almost near impossible. And so they started messing around and kind of trying to pick and decide different things. And I guess after one trip, they got really frustrated, and they started coming back. It's about I think it was about 1962. They were down in Charlie Boy, and I think it was around, they were coming around Malapai or someplace. But anyways, they said they were going to head back to Bull Pass and go over. And while they were at the saddle, I think it was at Malapai, they go to cross and they see something in some bushes or something. Something caught his eye, and he went over, and it was a bunch of pieces of leather. They pulled it out, and they found something like 30, 40, 50 pounds of gold ore. And today's value, that would probably be somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000. And they brought it out, and it was gold in quartz, a quartz vein, and so forth. So I think people have said it's very similar in, they said it would be something we find considerably in a copper miner from somewhere. So Haywood brought this in, he had this, he was obviously able to sell a little and fund, and they searched for the rest of his life. He told Robert Sensom Jacob, Crazy Jake about it, Richard Peck, a number of people. I know he was good friends with Ron Feldman and confided in Ron, and even sold some of the ore to Ron, which is where most of us have been able to kind of see the ore and the description. One of the first puzzling things is, and of course this wasn't the mine, he always thought there was a mine attached to this stuff and searched that area for years, never found anything. But the mine he was supposedly looking for in this pit was, the gold was in a soft black rock, and on either side of it was a reddish rock. And the ore he found in the saddlebags has nothing to do with any of that. It's in quartz. It doesn't resemble anything he spoke of. So whether this ore came from a different source and was dropped, or what happened, it was, some people have kind of said it might have come from the massacre or someplace else. It's kind of a bit odd. John spent off and on quite a bit of his time traveling to and from. I don't know how much time he would have actually lived in Arizona, but he traveled, visited, and searched for some time with his brother Joe. And if you ever see the picture, the one picture I know of that's usually published with the story is of John Kochera back in the Superstitions. He's in a pair of jeans, barefoot, no shirt, with a bandana on. but it never got quite resolved, and people have kind of always tried to pull apart the story. But what always interests me was the whole idea of that there was this mountain and this pit, and there was a story once coming up through Needle Canyon or LaBarge, and an Indian says, when you guys, I think he was might have been talking to LaBarge himself, or Charlie Boy, said when you crossed over that hill and you walked right over, $1 million in gold, And it always made me wonder, was it sort of something of an old common area? Now, depending where you are with the Dutchmen and so forth, and a number of stories, there were supposedly 8, 9, 10 Peralta mines covered, and by the Apaches. One wasn't covered, it was higher up and they left open, which is odd because we also take the Bob Schuss story of the map that was found in the book in Illinois, I believed. And that map, they located all the mines but one that was thatched, and that means it was a covered mine. And that kind of doesn't still fit the area. A number of searchers that spoke to John Kochera and searched for this area, for this mine near the ore, again, were searching in LaBarge Box, which is nowhere near where he says he was, or he would have been searching. I've seen people pinpoint up on Peters Mesa. I've seen people pinpoint where he was crossing over on Yellow Mountain, Malapai, and various saddles where he might have been, which don't make sense. None of it does, because when you think that you were in Charlie Boy, and if you were at Charlie Boy or Black Mountain and you were crossing and coming down to the spring and then going to go out Bull Pass, you wouldn't be up where they actually technically were. But regardless, the gold ore was very, very real. Did Haywood perhaps do something wrong on his map because he was drunk? Is a possibility. Did he have some sort of regrets or something after he got himself so far of promising he'd draw this map and gave the description of the story? Did he change something in the story that kind of completely throws someone off? I don't know. It is a singular, really interesting story. John Kochera was a very real person and very real searches. And again, that ore does exist. I've held it. I remember sitting there looking at it, and it's just almost a total puzzling story because almost all the particulars don't seem to fit with each other, but there's very real elements. There's different people have different theories on why this was, but most everyone that knew John Kochera seemed to think the story is what it was, and whatever he got wrong or Silas Haywood got wrong, that's just where it's at. So somewhere in the Superstition Mountains, if you find yourself around a small hill or mound or area, and you find a tunnel with a tree covering it, down below, somewhere up top, there's a pit that's covered that is just full of gold in black and red matrix, and completely different description than anything we've heard, though we've heard, and this is probably new for everyone for this, the Starry Night ore and that type of thing, so it fits that. But a very interesting story. I know a number of people have tried to locate this place and feel it's up by Yellow Mountain or Malapai or someplace. And that's the mine in particular. And then others have wondered, what about that gold? And there's nothing to shake your head at. To find something $40,000 to $60,000 worth of gold today would be considered a successful day in the mountains. So there you go. The gist and the run and the basics of the John Kochera story. I do believe in Thomas Glover's Twice Told Tales. He does tell that story. I don't know too many other books. I don't think Helen Corbin, I don't think Jack Set Fleece, I don't think a lot of people cover that story. But it is easily, hands down, one of the most interesting stories and a successful story. It's an individual that actually found something, though it wasn't what he was looking for. And John spent the rest of his life trying to find the mine of the ore that he found, but wasn't the mine that he was originally searching for. So kind of a twisted and turn in a funny way. The superstitions can kind of have their play with you. So thank you for watching. 52 episodes, putting it on an entire solid year. We will return and be back next year, and we will continue to keep this ongoing. So thanks for watching. Pick up a t-shirt, leave us a comment, hit the notification bells. Please always subscribe. Have a great new year, and here from Legends of Superstition Mountains, we'll see you next week. Take care.